You know, originally this was supposed to be yet another long video that would end up being an hour to watch. I don't got time for that, you don't got time for that, so I'm just gonna wing it and see what happens. But before we get to that, it's time for ads. Here we go. Guys, for the first time, and I'm happy to say this, today we are sponsored by HelloFresh. Are you too busy to go out and have some lunch at a local restaurant, or perhaps groceries are starting to get a little too expensive? I work from home, so I know these troubles. I use HelloFresh myself, and I can definitely say it's well worth it if you're looking for a healthy, easy-to-cook alternative at a modest price. HelloFresh can cover 30 meals with more than 70 different ingredients weekly, and can be delivered to your door at your convenience. The plans are flexible, and I did find myself saving money after I stopped using Uber Eats and DoorDash. There was even a survey saying that HelloFresh is 72% cheaper than grocery shopping. They have veggie meals, pescatarian meals, and even fit and wholesome for those who wish to reach or maintain your goals without sacrificing flavor. Ingredients come prepared and take up to 30 minutes to cook, with recipes for you to use in order to make delicious meals that satisfies and fills the belly. And there's no hassle when it comes to pausing or canceling your subscription. Everything is done on the HelloFresh website. There is no phone call that you need to make, no emails that you have to give out, no waiting, no hassle whatsoever. Just a click of a button. But seeing how HelloFresh understands that times aren't lucrative, they sent me a personal code you guys can use, so take advantage now. Use my link or go to HelloFresh.com to use code POGHF15964 for 70% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code POGHF15964. Thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Hello, I'm Syncweaver, and I play Final Fantasy XIV. Well, not currently, since content is a little dry, and I'm not willing to do the same thing over and over again just to level a job I hate using, or just being by myself. So instead of slumping in my chair doing nothing, I decided it was a good idea to go back to a certain MMO that I tried last year, World of Warcraft. What? Okay, look, I never said I hated World of Warcraft, okay? I even said I'd give it another chance if they did some core changes to the game and the company. Still waiting for the company changes, though. Last time, I couldn't get through the entire expansion of Shadowlands. It just wasn't for me, since the story, which I focused a lot on, had me lost and confused. And those expectations are completely my fault, and I'll explain why later. I also felt like I was just doing the same thing over and over until max level and reaching endgame. The whole experience just felt like it wasn't for newcomers. Imagine, if you will, being thrown in the middle of a park fight where you have no idea what's happening around you. You don't know how it started, you don't know anyone there, but for some reason, you are heavily involved in the fight. People already know who you are. Also, you kick a lot of ass, and thus it's entirely up to you how the fight ends. That is what it was like playing World of Warcraft for the first time, and again, it's completely my fault for hanging on to the story as an anchor to keep playing. Unfortunately for my WoW viewers, I am heavily spoiled by Final Fantasy XIV with its consistent and quite amazing story, in my opinion. So when I came into World of Warcraft, I had high expectations, especially for the lore, and I am sorry. In the background, WoW does have an amazing story. It's deep, creative, and absolutely filled with exciting events and interesting characters. It's just a shame that most of the good stuff are in books and hidden all over the place in different media. Not to mention, according to the fans, after Wrath of the Lich King, things started getting a little humdrum. Not bad, but not as epic as Wrath. Well, to some, Legion was really good. Never got to play it, but I'll take their word for it though. I, unfortunately, have to say this with the highest respect, but how did your story forget about a giant sword stabbed in the very planet? It's very noticeable. Why are we just ignoring this? The problem I had with WoW's story, at least in Shadowlands, was that it was not very cohesive and relied too much on players already knowing the current lore, though some would say that BFA wasn't as good either. I never really got through all of BFA, so I wouldn't know. And also, unfortunately, I did play a little bit of Legion, which has one of the best intros I've seen in an MMO. Seriously, this war with the demons was pretty epic. That is, until the troll got iced. I started feeling like someone really wanted this woman right here specifically to be the misunderstood savior, like she was going to change the shape of all reality or something. Thing was, I didn't like her, I didn't know who she was, and the game really wanted me to feel sympathy for her. No! I talked about Sylvanas in my last video, but I just did not like how they portrayed Sylvanas in here. I just did not like her as a character. They did not portray her as a character that I should really like. No, I do not like the Dark Lady, but that is not the Dark Lady's fault. In fact, it's whoever wrote the story. How about you tell me who the f she is first? Who's this guy? Or this guy? Who's she? Why is she so important? And how come this guy gets snatched up out of nowhere? It ain't like these flying things were trying to hide or something. And that has nothing to do with Anduin. I just did not like how they set up this narrative. But at this point, I'm just nitpicking, so I'll just move on. What I learned from my new player experience is not to expect anything from the story. So when Dragonflight was announced, I had a solid plan to totally enjoy my newish player experience. Step 1, the story. Step 2, rush to endgame. Step 3, do side quests after the main story to see what I missed. And that was the plan. Unfortunately, it didn't go that way. Right off the bat, WoW got me with something I could not ignore. Playable dragon people. The Dracthyr was the new race in WoW, and I was glad Ascalia was about to garnish itself in WoW's RP community. But bad news struck when I found out that the Dracthyr had only one class. One class? Huh. I wasn't too sure why they only had one class, but I rolled with the punches while staring off in Blizzard's direction, giving them a look and asking why they made a new race in the new expansion with only one class option. No, seriously, why? And another thing, I know I play a tall, anime-looking, scaly etchfest of a man in 14, but seeing how I'm playing WoW, the manly man game, why do the Dracthyr look like this? I'm not saying it's all bad, but Dracthyr kind of all look the same, no difference at all between the males and females, and this is a game that has these beefy guys walking all over the place. I don't know, I just feel like these guys should have been a template for the male Dracthyr, obviously shorter, and the standard body type we have now should have been the female. There's nothing wrong with showing difference in gender, especially in an MMO that, for the most part, allows players to live out their highly desirable fantasies. It's just WoW kind of disappointed me here, but since I wasn't backing down now, I went full throttle with the Dracthyr. Still, look at these big-ass motherfuckers. Starting off with the Dracthyr would soon help me really get into the story of Dragonflight. I would say the Dracthyr are the real stars of the expansion, seeing how a few in-game cutscenes were released on YouTube as trailers, starring one of the Dracthyr you get to meet on your journey, Scale Commander Emberthal. You start off amnesiac as your home is under attack, you are tasked with waking your kin and fending off these new invaders. You soon discover that your attacker is trying to open a vault with a very dangerous enemy behind the wall. So, seeing how as you're one of the elite troops especially trained in the color of every aspect known as an evoker, you are tutorial guided towards all your missions which involve rallying the troops and along the way, gaining more of your abilities. Successful in doing that, the Dracthyr try to stop the enemy, to no avail. Well, to be fair, the Dracthyr start off amnesiac, as I said before. They are confused and have no idea what's happening. You literally start with only 4 or 5 abilities until you get your specialization, which, by the way, I can appreciate. Story-wise, this works well because you just woke up from a 10,000 year slumber, which causes some memory loss, thus the few abilities you were left with. Game-wise, it helps players get a handle of the class before getting bogged down by the 20 other something abilities the game unloads on you after finishing the Dracthyr story. So, as I'm getting to know my abilities and understanding the Dracthyr ain't shit when compared to the new antagonist, the Primalists, whom of which successfully unleash a proto-drake known as Razageth, whom of which is also very, very mad. Nosdormu then arrives and tells Razageth to stop it, they're being mean. And then a separation happens with the Dracthyr forces. One side goes to the Alliance and the other side goes to the Horde because one of the Scale Commanders is like, I don't know why Neltharion did this to us. I don't know why he would freeze us like this. I don't believe this. We've been abandoned. I'm not really sure why that's going on. Some just abandon the Dracthyr forces outright, and some just change sides to the Primalists for some reason. I guess. I think some of them are hypnotized or something. I think they did this so we can fight some Dracthyr as enemies, but it feels kind of lazy story-wise, and this isn't the only moment I find very questioning when it comes to this inconsistent narrative. Like how the aspects are now ruled by Alexstrasza, when I thought this whole time they acted as 5 leaders. I mean, it's okay, they can have a queen, Alexstrasza can be the queen, and I'm okay with this, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just thinking, I don't know, maybe I've heard this wrong, but they acted as 5 leaders, not 1 being the leader and taking all responsibility? Or how after finding out that the Drakthir were frozen by Neltharion, the very aspect that created them and was seen as both a general and a father figure to the Drakthir, but for some reason he still needed a Titan artifact to control them anyway? Like, the Drakthir were created by Neltharion, and he still found the need to mind control them? That don't make no sense. Even when discovering this, Emberthal was very confused as to why he froze them, as she understood that Neltharion was their creator, and all the Drakthir would have died for the guy. Look, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. Just like how Drakthir are basically dragons with the mortal element of infinite growth, but are still considered mortal, even though they're supposed to be the perfect dragon army, of which don't age anyway. So considering that, the Drakthir should be considered non-mortal, right? But they're still considered mortal. I think I might be missing something. I'll just let that go. I won't let this be the last thing. Throughout the main campaign, there are some very glaring continuity issues with how some of the NPCs address the Drakthir. Some call me Evoker, seeing how I'm an Evoker. I have no problem with that, but it's when they start calling me Champion is where I must call foul. Well, you see, I am not a champion. I have not known any major cast for years, even though they say I did. I have not gone on any of those world-saving adventures, even though they say I did, and I certainly did not earn the title of champion, seeing how I am a Drakthir, and I just woke up less than 2 days ago. I mean, for God's sake, they have the Drakthir wandering the Alliance and Horde cities, acting like they've never seen these contraptions before. Everything is new to them. They're obviously there, and they have no idea what's going on. This is a new world to them. They did not just wake up like 5 years ago. They were not always there. And yes, I know it's supposed to address the other expansions you have access to, but you're not obligated to do them whatsoever. And even still, who's going to create a Drakthir character and go through Shadowlands all over again, or even BFA, just to get the level 70? And if you did, you poor soul. I'm just saying, if you play as a Drakthir, they should at least change some sentences in the text from champion to evoker, or at least spend time giving some major events the correct continuity when addressing a Drakthir. It's the little things that matter. Well, looking past those little issues, I rather liked the Dragonflight story. It was centered around the main plot of helping the Aspects reclaim their place in the Dragon Isles, stopping whatever plans the Primalist army had cooking, and no character is just here with the expectation of knowing who they are. Even if you did know who the Aspects were, the story does a good job giving new players enough information to know the bare minimum of how important they are. Like, I have no idea who Kalecgos is, but it doesn't stop me from rooting for his success and getting his family back together. This man operates the whole of the Azure span by himself with hundreds of magical copies. Kalecgos is kind of a badass, and I very much enjoyed the story getting to know the Dragonflight and going through their scenarios. Like, for instance, the Red Dragonflight is all about life, and it was all about you understanding how new Dragonflights were born while fighting the enemy who is literally next door. No, like, seriously, look over the ledge. They're right there. They're right fucking there. While with the Green Dragonflight, you had a little mini battle to save a barrier which protects the area, but introduces you to the Centaur, who has one of the best story points where you got to just chill out, hang with the tour, listen to their stories, hunt with them, and even ride a wolf. I swear, I thought this was all leading up to you sitting next to a campfire and smoking a pipe with them. The Black Dragonflight had you raid a keep, but ended up with you picking a dragon boyfriend for you to support? I have no idea who Civilian is and why he thinks I'm gonna choose him. Bro, I don't know who you are. Who are you? Why are you here? Why do you think I'm going to choose you? Who are you? The Blue Dragonflight had you go all over the Azure span fighting battles with Kajar and rescuing the Tuskar from scary hyena people. Well, some of them live, a lot of them die. But during the journey, you got to see Kalecgos start to understand the meaning of family, reunite that family, and eat some fish gut soup with the Tuskar, taking one for the team, and having a very humble ending. Yeah, I had the feels with that one. I can honestly say that Kalecgos is my favorite aspect. Bronze though? Oh my god, let me tell you how this Dragonflight f***ed with my head with their nonsense, but enjoying every bit of my time going through said nonsense. First, this is Chromie. I like Chromie, but after some shenanigans, she and this Infinite Dragonflight bully get sent barreling through time and space. And guess whose job is it to go after them and making sure they're okay? this guy. First, you drop into a possible future where everything is horrible because you lost. You even get given a quest by your future self who does not help you at all. I'm a fucking jerk, I think. I do suspect that they intended for this area to be taken on by many players, seeing how the enemies here are pretty strong and are kind of tough for an evoker to take on by themselves. And during the endgame that may be true, but while going through the main campaign earlier with not a lot of people here, it was kind of tough. I kind of died a lot here, and I don't think this was a very good way to go through a main campaign or main scenario where there's a bunch of enemies that could whoop your ass very easily. Nonetheless, we get through and we move on. Chromie is now somewhere else. And so you end up in what is possibly the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in World of Warcraft. You end up in a timeline where everyone is a Murloc. You even fight alongside your Murloc self, who is better than my future self, I may add, and defeat the Murloc version of Deathwing. This by far is the best thing World of Warcraft has ever given me. And technically, I don't have to go through Cataclysm anymore since I already beat Deathwing right here. Yeah, I'm taking this as me defeating Deathwing right here in Cataclysm. The Murloc version. And here again, I do find the two dragons. They are just spinning in the air, but I had a little bit of an error here. I don't know if it was a glitch or something was happening, but I could not click on them. I could not set an event. There was nothing that was allowing me to push the narrative further. I had to leave the area and come back, and I've done this for a couple of areas in the game. I don't know. Well, again, they fall through space and time, and you literally have to run through time, going backwards to your own timeline just to go so far into the past that everything is just pure chaos. And this is what a Primalist is fighting for. This right here. This is what a Primalist is fighting for. Pure chaos. This is what they want. All the elements are just at war with each other, and it was kind of scary for me. Seems like something Doom Guy would actually love. Also, this thing. This thing in particular. This guy and this thing. I hate him. I don't like him. He killed me so many times at this part. I was wondering if Blizzard was smoking something when they made this particular enemy. He was so fucking stupid. Maybe I was underleveled. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was an evoker, but fuck this guy in particular because he impeded me for like 30 minutes. Or maybe I just suck at the game, but still fuck this guy in particular. Well, for me, at the end of all this, I receive a bombshell when Nosdarmu tells Chromie that he's the leader of the infinite Dragonflight in the future. And by now, you guys are probably like, well, no shit, we even kill him. There was like a boss fight and all that other stuff. How did you not know that? Look, shut up. All right? I never done that. I never knew about that. I never fought him. I don't know Nosdarmu. This is my first time. All right, I've gotten to know this guy for the first fucking time, so I didn't even know that in the future he was going to be a bad guy. So all of that was new. So shut up. What I will say is that it's reassuring that all of this is just people playing with time, and perhaps there is a way to find a timeline where Nosdarmu doesn't go Palpatine and tries to destroy the timeline. Well, I can't wait for that expansion. Now, after I said to you all the story, you're probably wondering why I spent several minutes explaining what I liked about the story. Listen, I can't fucking help it. When you spend nearly 10 years going through the world of Eorzea, and 10 years experiencing the story, some shit just doesn't turn off. Like, paying way too much attention to a video game's backstory is normal for me. Moving on, I did say the way they introduced the Evoker was very well done. WoW always had an interesting battle system, and here again, it feels solid and well tuned. It would also seem they have brought back the talent tree for this expansion, which apparently is not new. The talent tree feels great though, way different from 14 system where you don't get to choose anything. Now, I'm not saying it's bad, but World of Warcraft really does take the cake for being different in how you build your character. That is until Best in Slot information goes public, and in turn, everyone starts rocking the same talent build for a chance to have a higher DPS. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty great. When playing the Evoker class, you get the option of Devastation or Preservation for specialization. Shin. I can't stop saying shin. So, you have the choice of breathing mostly wind, fire, and air upon your enemies, or you can share the breath of Mentos Freshmaker upon your allies.
Fresh goes better, Mentos freshness. Fresh goes better with Mentos Fresh and full of life.
Mentos, the fresh maker.
I chose Devastation, of course, and focused on how much damage I need to do in AoE effects, seeing how Drakthir had talents meant for empowered abilities and AoE skills. Now, while I do like playing the Evoker class, I couldn't help noticing some things, like how easy they are to explode when fighting groups or stronger enemies by themselves, and I get it, they're supposed to be glass cannons, though last I checked, they aren't too powerful. Now, empowered abilities are a staple for the Evoker's damage rotation. You even have an ability that allows you to use them instantly at full power. But the other staple for Evokers is the ability Hover, which allows you to charge and use some of their spells while moving around, and for good reason, the main one being that they explode when they get touched. I noticed that the Evokers felt a bit close to the target when using their magic. I mean, they can cast from far away, but it just feels like that they aren't as far away as the Mage or Warlock, at least that's how it feels. Maybe it's just me since it's a range magic DPS, but a lot of times I feel like I need to be relatively closer to my target than some range classes. Hover helps keep the Evoker mobile and even has an emergency dodge when pointing in a direction. This is because they need to make sure they don't get hit since, yet again, they explode when they get touched. I think, and I know it's coming from the opinion of someone who plays Final Fantasy XIV, that if they want this class to feel a whole lot better, they should have Hover last longer, empowered abilities usable during Hover, fix this buff that hardly feels like you're taking 30% less damage, turn Renewing Blaze into a regen, please, and for the love of all things that are holy, Deep Breath should be cancelable. I can't tell you how many times I flew into dangerous areas or avoidable mobs like a fucking idiot, but I do play Final Fantasy XIV's Dragoon at a high level, and their whole thing is to jump into dangerous areas, so maybe Dragon, Dragoon, Drakthir, I don't know, something's crossing wires here. However, like I said before, I like Evoker. I like how powerful it feels even though its damage is mediocre. I like being able to chain together proc abilities for continuous damage. I also like throwing out some heals to help the party even though I'm on a DPS spec. It feels like a combination of some Black Mage mechanics with Red Mage abilities from Final Fantasy XIV, and yes, I know I keep referring back to that game, but I assure you that is a good thing, because if I can translate that into World of Warcraft, then you can be sure that if someone from Final Fantasy XIV came over to WoW, they'll be able to pick it up easily and won't have to focus too much on how to play the game, and rather just having fun. And besides the combat, dragon riding, which is basically something they took from Guild Wars 2, is hella fun to use while traversing the Dragon Isles. When fully leveled, something I didn't do until after the story, you're basically flying. And yes, I do regret not maxing out my dragon riding at the get-go. I've heard, however, that dragon riding isn't allowed in the other older zones. I don't know why. 14 allows flying in its older zones in the Realm Reborn. Don't see why WoW can't do that for dragon riding. I mean, sure, yeah, it's faster than flying, but I just don't get how it's unfair in any way when they know everyone is just gonna have dragon riding in the first place. Plus, people are f***ing lazy. I know for sure when someone sets out with their flying mount, they're pressing the auto button, or using one of those transport stations which automatically sets you across the world. Some motherfucker is either sitting on their toilet, making a sandwich, or watching YouTube on their guaranteed second monitor while doing all of this. Or watching YouTube on the toilet with their phone after they ate a very heavy ass sandwich. Like, come on, we all know this. The regular flying system won't be abandoned anytime soon. But I will credit World of Warcraft for its combat system and traversal options anyway. I also want to praise how good looking it is. Again, referring to that MMO. Final Fantasy XIV is realistic with its art style. I, as a player of that game, will be the first person to say that it definitely can look grayed out at times, even though there are some areas that can be absolutely beautiful. WoW, at least on the Dragon Isles, looks absolutely bright, colorful, stylistic, and the skybox is a work of art. Just from riding my dragon over the isle, I can see the artistic appeal everyone kept shouting into my ear. I'd even say that if I had to compare it to 14, it's way more stylistic and colorful, and while 14 is more realistic and atmospheric, I can't really say which one looks better to me. I like them both. But Final Fantasy XIV still wins in the music department. I am so sorry. Going through a dungeon or raid still has you listening to ambient-like music, which isn't very memorable to me.
Students have been here. I'm just putting together my lesson plan.
Funny enough, I did try playing 14 music while going on dungeon runs, and the results were amazing. No hate, because the background music does set the mood for the dungeons and raids. It's just not very memorable to me. I can't remember which music I liked or disliked. It just all felt like it was melting into the background. So, after playing Dragonflight, I can honestly say that I like it, and seeing how 14 allows players to leave the game when they don't feel like pressing their time and grinding out gear, like I'm currently doing in WoW, I can positively say that I can play Dragonflight and 14 at the same time without worry. Yeah, weird, right? Playing the top 2 MMOs in the world at the same time, plus a little RuneScape on the side, without quitting any game or posting a video about it. I even have a 9 to 5, and somehow I can make it work. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to give up my social life and play games for hours on end, even though I'm missing out on a lot of physical activities outside of my door. But there is a little snag, and this is a bit of an addition to the video. Currently, my game is performing slow in terms of loading up the game and even playing. Zones don't load in fast enough, and I feel like it has something to do with my game client. Not too sure. I've asked some friends and I've looked up forums, and I was told that I need to transfer the game to an SSD hard drive, and I don't have $100 to $200 to spend on that. I work a 9 to 5 to keep the roof over my head and pay bills. I don't get a lot of views on stream, and YouTube is a hobby, so I'm not going to have the extra money just to shovel out for an SSD, which apparently Blizzard is asking me to do. I just feel like World of Warcraft should be able to be played in a regular hard drive, and maybe it's not just the hard drive. I don't know what exactly is going on, but that's what I am told. If anyone has a fix to this, please let me know in the comments down below, or you can DM me on Twitter. And if and when I do get WoW back up and running, I will delete this part via YouTube editing so this doesn't interfere with the rest of the video. I really want to do the world events and get my gear upgraded, and I do want to try out the mythic dungeons and raids. I don't have a lot of friends on WoW currently, but yeah, thank you in advance. Thanks for watching. Please sub if you want to see more of my videos or future videos. I make Final Fantasy XIV content and possibly WoW videos now. I also stream here on the SyncWeaver channel, on my second channel, Sank Olma, for non-MMO stuff, and on Twitch with the same name, SyncWeaver. I'll see you guys later. Bye!